Hi, Carly.
Hello, Sneha.
Okay, so we're on week something of Sip and
I
Pen.
don't
I
know.
keep
Yep, we're not
lovely.
counting.
No, no more. And
Nope.
this week we're going to talk about triggers, I
Mm-hmm.
think. It's already triggering me.
Right, it's so triggering.
It's already like, I don't know. But I thought, especially because we hear so many people talk about triggers in a way that this is what you do, this is what you have to do. Nobody talks about their actual journey with it,
Mm-hmm.
like giving specific examples. And I thought, as triggering as that is for us to share specifics of our lives, I thought it would be good to at least touch upon a few instances where we've been triggered and how we handled it. And then we can get into why that happens and how we can deal with it in certain situations of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, triggers, what are they and why are they such a bitch? I think I can go first. I think triggers when I have been triggered by anything, and like I used to get triggered a lot. I think that's your environment reminding you where there's still work to do, where you're not properly regulated yet. Because if there was some, like, for example, if you were disrespected at a work situation or in a relationship, or, not even like you're in the subway and somebody's just yelling or something and you're getting triggered, um, that's your environment having control over you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yes.
the best thing to look into it. It's never a good thing to just brush it aside, maybe in that moment because we're triggered, so we should not indulge, but it cannot be completely swept under the rug, just because it's bound to come up and more volcanic next time. Thoughts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's the situation that is reminding you of something, right? But I also think with triggers, we have to remind ourselves that it's not necessarily the situation's fault and it's not on purpose. Like usually it's with one other person or some certain scenario that is bringing you back to when you were hurt, when you were disrespected or put you in an unpleasant situation. And I think it's very easy to react, with triggers, you respond,
Mm-hmm.
self, um, to make yourself safe. But
Protective of
really,
yourself. Yeah.
yes, self-protection type of mode,
Mm-hmm.
self-defense even.
Mm-hmm.
But I go back to that pause, that desire to pause for myself because I don't like to be reactive and to
Mm-hmm.
really dive into what's happening and understand that that person may not be meaning to, but why is it happening
Mm-hmm.
so that I can
Mm-hmm.
process my own thoughts versus judging them, if that makes
Yeah.
any sense.
Yeah. I think the most brilliant thing that I realized throughout my own journey was like um, being around people who will challenge you on your beliefs.
Yep.
So let's say you're in a situation where somebody, let's say your boss or your boyfriend, in some cases they're the same. to, to jokey joke. But let's say your parents, your siblings, somebody said something, and you are just so sure that they meant to disrespect you, that they meant
Yeah.
to hurt your feelings. And then you go talk to your best friend, or you go, talk to your boyfriend or your friends, and you go, they said so and so, and it hurt my feelings. They obviously meant to do this. And then they're like, no, I don't think that they did. And for me to realize that not everybody thinks like
Yes. Yep.
that was a major blow to my own like little tiny self when I was maybe 15 and 16. I was like, wait, so not everybody perceives the situation like I do. So when a teacher tells you to correct your mistake in school, they're just doing their job. They're literally trying to teach you. And that was a major eye opener. I was like, oh, not everybody thinks like me. Not everybody is trying to hurt my feelings. Not everybody is coming for me. And so there are some situations where that was very apparent, where like a teacher, a boss, or a coworker or a stranger on the train even. But in some situations, it's harder to believe, where it's your best friend, it's your boyfriend, it's your parents. That's when it gets trickier to be like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
understanding the situation from their point of view, why they might have done it or not. But even going beyond that, why is it having the effect on me that it is having? I think that's a more important question to ask in general. Why am I feeling? Why is it making me feel the way that it is?
Yeah, I love the idea of, I think it's fabulous advice is to talk to someone else when you're triggered, to really have that other sense of, perspective. A lot of times when people talk to me about those sort of moments, I come at it like, well, if I was in their situation, I would have thought this way, because to try to
Mm-hmm.
explain that, like you and I are opposite personalities in many ways. And we have those conversations, like I probably would have done the same thing David did, because I'm the quiet and introvert, And so I think that that's helpful to really talk to someone you trust. But when you don't have that person, exactly why pep talks are here and what we want to do, it's almost like have that plan of questioning yourself, and what you said of, it may not be their intent. There was something that I read that was really great. It was actually in business leadership, but it was about, it really like, I thought about it with friends, with boyfriends, with anything, even with kids. There's facts about the scenario, there's interpretations, and then there's personal feelings. And they
Mm-hmm.
use the best
Mm-hmm.
example, like this person came in late for the meeting that you had scheduled, and it's like the 20th time they came late. So you get upset. You're like, they disrespected me. That's personal feelings.
Yeah.
Interpretations, they had no reason to come in late. They came in late because I scheduled it. That's your interpretation of seeing the actions that happen. Facts are, they were late to the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Ask why.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe their father was sick and they were helping them get better. Like you haven't even found out the reasons to interpret. And so it
Mm-hmm.
really was eye-opening to me to like try to separate my brain of like, okay, is this a personal feeling or what are the facts in the
I love,
situation?
I love because um your thought, your interpretation, your perspective, your own feelings about the situation tells you about your own self-worth. They did not come on time because I set up the meeting. Who is that about? Who
Right.
is that? I'm sorry. Who is that about? And why are you thinking of yourself that way? So are they disrespecting you, or is it you? Like, is it you
And
who
that
had
the
that thought?
trigger was being late, but what was the moment that is bothering you?
Right.
It's being
And
insecure, not feeling like anyone respects you or.
lovely.
Mhm.
And so that what we just saw from this example is an invitation for somebody who's in that position to grow, to change, because it's not a good feeling to feel that way. It's not a good feeling to tell yourself those things where like they are late because it was me who set up the meeting. If somebody else would have, they would have been on time. Whatever that um, negative self worth is.
Mhm.
And so that's a chance for you because that's your environment showing you, hey, change this belief about you because it's not serving you in any way. The other point I wanted to bring up is that um, we have discussed so far, what if somebody's intent wasn't to trigger you? Now I kind of want to pivot to what if it was their intent.
Hmm. I
right?
don't like this.
And if, like,
Ooh.
let's think about, right, right. So you should not react in the situation when it's not their intent. You should definitely not fucking react when it's somebody's intent on purpose.
Mhm. This brings me right to
That's
like, yeah, go ahead.
that's when it gets that's when it becomes power. That's when people want to get a reaction out of you. That's when you definitely don't. So whatever the situation may be, you just sometimes you laugh at it, right? Like somebody will say something to get you and you'd be like, I was just, oh my God, I'm going to share a personal anecdote. um I hope my friends don't watch it from back in the day, because I don't I don't hold anything, any grudge or anything against people. So um this was a long time ago. I was in high school and we were having some kind of like school function. And I grew up in India, so our functions were different. I'm just gonna say that. And we were all supposed to dress up ethnic traditional wear. And for me, I like elaborate outfits. It's one thing I've always liked it. I like, sorry, my hands are red because of this lipstick. Like Fenty is amazing, but it transfers like a motherfucker. So I was making out with um sorry. But so I had dressed up in this like beautiful, what I thought was beautiful, and I still do this to this day. Like I don't really care. I really care about how I feel, how it makes me feel, rather than
Hmm.
whatever. So I'm wearing this like really nice I can't explain it, but it was just like a very nice dress, right? And this boy, we must have been in like, I don't even know, like 10th grade or ninth grade or something. And this guy, so not quite high school, I guess, but he was a friend. He was a friend of mine and goes, "What are you wearing?" And I was like, "What's wrong with it?" And he goes, "Well, everybody's dressed so stylish, and you look like you have two kids. Like you look frumpy." And that's one thing. I have always thought so highly of myself in the way that I dress. That's one thing you can't get me. I wear weird outfits, and it doesn't trigger me. It's like it really doesn't, because I know, I look in the mirror, I go, "That's weird. I love it." So it wasn't a part of, it couldn't trigger me. So I laughed and I said, "What if I am? You don't know. You don't know my life." And his face just like sort of fell. And I think he immediately understood, because like I laughed it off. I didn't like confront or anything, but I didn't want to confront. I was like, okay, I love kids. If I've always wanted that for myself. So even when I was young, I was like, someday, sure, if I look motherly, no, that's not bad. I love mothers. I love how um, moms are hot. Like, what are you talking about? So that was a point where I was just like, I think you meant to trigger me. I think you meant to take a jab at my the way I felt. But it didn't do anything. It didn't do anything. It fell really flat. So there will be times when they will on purpose try and trigger you, but it will hurt feelings. And then there will be times where you won't even, it will go like, okay, like what did it say? Water off of duck's back or something?
I
So
think though,
tell
yeah.
me, share some of I want to hear those
Oh
moments for you.
boy. Well, I wanted to say, I think your response and reaction in that example is actually, it can get to the person that was doing it on purpose, or flip the script on the person that wasn't, like actually addressing it. And what I grew up learning, and the way I love to deal with it, is kill them with fucking kindness. You
Mm,
know, when they say you look frumpy, why, thank you. I love your shirt, by the way. Or, like it's just gonna, if they were doing it on purpose, it's gonna throw them off. If they weren't doing it on purpose, then you're good,
yeah.
like to at least try to approach it in that way and assume the best intentions,
Hmm.
and act like, kill them with kindness. Get that, relationship out there. I'm trying to think. Oh, I'm struggling with, examples. Um, I think for me, let's give one example. Okay. In a conversation, especially working together on a team project, well, that's not my job. That's triggering for me because in the past, those comments have been, I've been blamed for things, or it's created a team aspect that just shoots it down. It kills it for everyone in the room when that phrase is brought up. And so, personally, in my experiences, that's a trigger. And so,
Mm.
whenever it comes up, whenever it starts even bubbling up, I immediately go in and be like, well, how about I take that? No matter if it's my responsibility, no matter if it's, actually everyone's responsibility, I try to jump in, kill them with kindness, and set an example to try to shift that cultural, you know, um, situation that was starting to deteriorate.
I definitely go a trigger for a trigger sometimes. Sometimes I will match the energy. Sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, you want to go? You want to tango? Let's tango." I really, I'm so. This is one of the things about me that scares me the most, to be completely honest, where I am so I'm not kind because it's not that I like try to be kind, and David will always say that you're extra nice to people. I'm like, I don't, that's just, I'm not doing it on purpose. Like, it's not something I can control, like consciously control. So it's just it just comes out, you know? But
Mm-hmm.
there will be times when, and it's so funny because it will have to be, I have this like underdog thing where, let's say, five friends are sitting at a dinner table and all four of them are ganging up on this one person, this one underdog, making fun. Oh my God. Oh my God. If I won't annihilate every one of them, like four of them, I have to. I have this thing about, don't gang up on people. What is wrong with you? And so in those situations when something is directed towards somebody else and I'm in the room, not on my watch, not on my watch. If it comes at me, I can handle it in whichever way I like. So like you said, oh, you look frumpy. I'd be like, oh, so we're matching. How nice. I didn't even plan on it. I can be so mean. I can be so, and like very in a fun way, not in a like a sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that. um but when it's directed towards others in front of me, fuck no. When it's directed at me, I'll play with it. But that's when I am engaging with the trigger. That's for me how I saw my brother, my young sibling, being bullied. I think that's where I picked it up. That's where I was like,
Mhm.
no, I'm the older one, and even though we are not that different in age, we're just like a year and 5 months apart. But I feel very protective of him. He's like my firstborn, right? Um, so I feel that way about anybody who's like introverted and will never speak out for themselves. And I'm like, when karma is late, God sends Sneha. I am here. I'll do it.
Right.
Um, Tell me some of your this is us segueing a little bit. Triggers in relationships. I feel like that will be a good one.
Yeah, I think it's probably right now, it is whenever I feel a sense of being put down or not heard, passed by. Um,
Mm.
and it's funny because, well, it's always been important to me. I've always been very independent in relationships. I'm not one to hang out with my boyfriend or husband every day. Like, I can't. We're right now, we've spent too many days together, or I need that night away to just for each of us. And it wasn't one when we went to different colleges to call each other every day. I was like, we're not calling each other every day. This is not happening. We are not going to be that couple. We are going to live our lives and,
Oh yeah,
learn
I
and
just want to
grow.
mention that. I want to mention that for our listeners that Carly has been with her husband for 20 something years, right?
Yeah, I think we just realized 25 years. So I was a senior in high school
Mhm.
and he was a junior in high school. And so we went to different colleges, made it through somehow. But I think because we made those decisions. So I'm super independent. Oh, but in those moments, like any boys that I dated, if I ever felt like any sort of disrespect, I was like, see ya, I don't need you. Not going to put myself in a situation. As I've become a mom, I know that there's some things that are out of my control that I don't want I don't want to argue about small things. I don't want to, in front of her or in like there's things I need to fucking let go. And so I found myself kind of giving in few situations, or if he has a way he wants to do it, I believe it's not the right way. Whatever. Have fun. If you mess up, I knew it. Or if you didn't, I learned something. Like I've learned to sort of judge those. But there have been moments lately where when he says something to me in a certain way and my daughter's right there, that's triggering. I don't know if,
Mhm.
like I do not want her seeing him talk to me that way. And I think it stems back from when I've seen not necessarily my parents, but even just family members, aunts, uncles talk to each other in disrespect.
Mm.
Is that love? Is that what
Mm.
moms and dads are supposed to do? Is that how I'm supposed to let whoever I'm with treat me? And so that is hugely triggering. And I guess I would say seeing any adult couple act a certain way in front of their child, it's just like, whoo. And so I just immediately like want to remove myself from the situation. I don't talk to my husband. I like end up texting him, but the minute I tell him the reason, it helps him like process. So I guess that's
Mm.
another thing of if it's in a relationship, you have to talk about it and talk about why you were triggered so that they can learn to not do it
Mhm.
again, right? If you don't tell them what happened and why you were triggered, then that's not going to be helpful either.
I'm gonna bring up, building on what you said, as a daughter who did see a lot of disrespect, right? So, this is funny. This is good, I think. Um, when you're in a situation where I saw violence, I saw verbal, physical abuse, and so you would think that that would make the violence normalized for me. However, it didn't. It actually made it a full blown trigger for me. So um, I think it depends on your core essence as to who you are. So if you're susceptible, this is why I say whenever somebody says that, oh, I'm impressionable, I'm like, don't be. Don't be. I want you to be your own person. Don't be impressionable. Learn, yeah, learn from other people's mistakes, but don't just take their lesson by heart. Practice. See what comes up. So for me, what happened was like, oh, fuck no. That is, if I would see any guy that I was dating have even traits of my father's behavior, immediate, immediate no. And so I think the baseline depends on your core essence as to who you are, where how much you've already had that kind of self-respect for yourself. And so it wouldn't matter what you would see. It's on you to normalize it or not normalize it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I think for me, what happened was the complete opposite. It didn't happen in the way that, oh, this is how women should be treated, or this is okay for my mom to, or for any woman to go through. I was just like, oh, there are actually red flags that appear much further before than all the way through. And I have had to work with those triggers as well. And what I mean by that is that, for example, my dad used to watch news more than sports, right? And so anytime I see a guy who's like super interested in news and it's a trigger. I'm like, oh, he doesn't like sports. And that's like, he's not fun. And he's super like, so no, and that's weird. Like it's not really true. That's just a familiarity that I have made. So those are the other things like that can come out of not doing the work, not actually sitting yourself down and going, hey, what are the facts? Like you said,
Yeah.
what are the actual facts? So yeah, I think that was like the other side of it, like being around that situation, like how do you handle that? But yeah, I think we covered relationships too. Is there anything like, you
I
did
think,
mention
I think
specific.
something super important is the more serious type of triggers that is actually going to hit people that are still going through the work of getting better. And that I think we shouldn't touch on because I really do think that should be for someone that's a professional that can help guide you through that. And maybe we can
Yeah.
have Ari comment on this
Yeah.
post to just like,
Yeah.
as a therapist, because there are
Yeah.
some much more serious triggers that neither side can control.
Mm-mm.
And we have to be, as people in society, be very conscious of what can trigger in those certain cases.
Yeah.
So I think after the fact, we should talk to Ari and see if she can.
Ari is our therapist on board, so that's why we keep mentioning her. I also want to say that the journey of a trigger is really funny in the sense that when it first happens, you are thinking that it is happening for the first time because it burns so much, like inside your body. But it's burning because that feeling has been practiced for a long time. It's just that somebody's showing you, somebody else knows something about you that you never shared. And so that's something interesting I found about triggers, like in my personal experience. Again, so I'm no therapist. I just like pay attention to my body and my mind and my feelings a lot. So that's funny to me that something I have been practicing within my body, something I've been saying to myself, somebody else says it, and I'm immediately like, oh, how dare you say something to me I already knew, you know?
mhm.
And then the funniest thing that we tend to do as human beings with our feelings is that we try to not feel them. We try to just like, oh my God, oh, that triggered me. I don't want to talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about it.
Mhm.
Talk about it to yourself. Talk about it to your people that you trust and you love and they love you. And what it ends up doing is you'll see that it's like I have heard this somewhere. This is not my example, but it's like snow. When feelings are in a ball, a snowball will hurt. An avalanche is a big part of the snow, right? Like it just makes it bigger and
Yeah.
bigger when it's not felt.
Mhm.
But once you sit down with it and you just break the snowball, it's just snow. It evaporates. And that's how feelings work. So the more you push it away, you are making it into a tough ball that will hurt. But the more you sit with it and you like take away, just like break it down, it
Yeah.
becomes not hard. So don't push away like I'll think about it later. I'll talk about it later. Just feel it. Feeling the feelings makes it go away. Thinking more thoughts makes it bigger. So it's the opposite. The more you think, the problem becomes bigger. So that's where you should stop. Did you hear my message?
Nope.
Yay, it worked. So
Mhm.
the more you think the thoughts about something, it makes it bigger. The problem becomes bigger. And the more you feel towards something, it makes it smaller. It's the funniest thing that I personally I can attest to. So
Yeah, and in some ways, I feel like that trigger happens after you haven't spoken about it. I mean, call it, maybe it's not a trigger, maybe it's straw that broke the camel's back. I shove things down, and then boom, that's like the grenade. But
yeah,
I think, it's just a lesson in talking to people before and after,
Yeah.
Just continuing to talk and get those feelings out.
Yeah. Feel them. Feel the feelings. Think
Mm-hmm.
less thoughts. I think that's, don't intellectualize triggers too. Like I think we tend to do that, and so many therapists, that's why I love the therapists that I have had, because they're so spiritual in that way too, where like every therapist, the ones I kept, the therapists that used to meet before, they would be like, okay, this is happening because you grew up in this house. I know that. I know
Mm-hmm.
that. How do I get over it? Tell me, teach me that. And so luckily I found the ones who were like, okay, enough intellectualizing your feelings. Let's feel them. And I would cry. All my therapy sessions, whether that was a 60 minute, 90 minutes, I will just cry. And that's important. I think
Yeah.
that's where we intellectualize so much of our lives. Sometimes you have to be an animal about it. Sometimes you just have to be basic about it. Just don't take it to, intellectualizing. What did they think? Well, it doesn't matter. You're still hurt. So your feelings
Yeah.
are valid no matter what. Your triggers are valid no matter what. Just sit with them. Talking and, talking about them as if like trying to find different angles into it, it's not going to help. What's going to help is sitting down with it and, babying yourself through it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what works for me. We'll say that. Okay. Do we have an exercise for our next segment?
We do. All right. So, and we'll see if it relates or not, because we do approach these cocologies. We try not to give it away for ourselves ahead of time. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
always a surprise, but there seems to always be a tie.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's called A Desert Journey.
Okay.
Waiting can be a special form of torture, worse than any momentary pain. The combination of frustration and boredom can send even the bravest heart into a state of panic. Our first journey will bring us face to face with the infinite. Take a moment to prepare yourself. An eternal desert. You are riding a camel across the vast and empty expanse of a seemingly endless desert. You have ridden until you are near exhaustion. What words would you say to the camel that has carried you all this way? Okay, you good? Just at the point you thought you'd die of thirst, a beautiful oasis appears. But someone has arrived before you. Who is this other traveler? Use the name of the person you know. Oof. Do I go with that first person that was like right in my head? I guess so. Okay. I hope this is good.
Yeah.
Time passes slowly in the desert, and it feels like an eternity before the lights of a town appear on the horizon. You have finally reached your destination. What are your feelings as you come to your journey's end?
Got
Good.
it.
The time has come to part with the camel you have ridden for so long.
No.
Just,
No, I named him and everything.
just as you dismount, a new rider climbs into the saddle to take your place. Who is the
No.
new rider? Name
No.
another person in your life. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, first person.
I don't have one. Wait. Um. Oh, okay. Got it.
Key to a desert journey. Now, this is smart. This where I found this one. It hides the whole answer so you can't cheat. It's awesome. So you have to like highlight it to read it. Let's see how well I can read it. Okay, get out of here. The desert and camel theme symbolizes the journey toward personal independence. Specifically, this scenario reveals your feelings about parting with a lover. Your answers show how you might react when the time comes to go your separate ways. The words you spoke to the camel reveal what you might say to yourself when you realize love has been lost. Did you try words of encouragement, like, we'll make it through somehow? Or was there a hint of despair? We're lost. This is hopeless. I think we're going to die out here. What were
No, I
yours?
was very much like, we're gonna get through this. I dismounted my camel and I was like, I'm gonna take my load off of you. We're just going to make it through. I'll take care of you while we get there. That's how I talked to my
Yep.
camel.
I was like super motivational. I got off the camel too. I was so thankful with how much they've helped,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just like, you can do this. I know you can. You've done so
Hmm.
well. You've
We'll do it
complimenting.
together. Yeah,
Yeah.
same. You've done so. You've carried us so far. Yeah, same.
Yeah. So in psychological terms, the oasis symbolizes the key to solving one's problems. The person you encountered here could be someone who has helped or comforted you in the past, or one you might turn to in times of need.
Mine was David. I was just like, it would be David. He is just he's so prepared. He does everything for us. Like I just go along like I'm a child or something. But I saw him.
Mine was Calvin, my husband.
Okay, so
So
there you
so if love is failing, just talk to them, basically.
yeah.
All right. The town at the journey's end stands for the order restored to your emotions once you've recovered from your broken heart. Your feelings upon reaching the town are your true feelings about finally getting over a lost love. I'm trying to remember. You finally reach it. What are your feelings as you come to the journey's end?
Oh, that's weird because I thought we were always going to get here. We'll always have found our way. Like I was telling my camel that too. I was like, "Hey, look, we made it as we knew we would." So I was very content in a sort of way. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like super excited to see the town. I was just like, "We made it." That kind of a thing. That's a strange thing though, that it symbolizes what is that like after you've
True
broken up or
feeling
something?
about finally getting, oh, you made it. You knew you'd get there. You knew you'd heal. That makes sense.
Oh, oh, oh,
It's
okay. Oh,
you
perfect.
it's like you're not surprised. It just took a lot of work, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
that's okay.
And mine was very like it was not trivializing what we just went through. We're like, oh, we finally made it. I was very, again, complimentary of the camel. I'm like, you did
Yeah.
such a good job. I'm so proud
I
of
know.
you. And thank you.
My camel was Frank. I named him Frank.
Okay, the last one was the new rider is a person toward whom you feel a secret rivalry, jealousy, or resentment. Is this person you named a rival in love, or maybe someone who once broke your heart?
That is so strange. I couldn't find a person, and I thought one of my dogs, and then I was like, no, if I want someone to have my camel, it would be Kelly. That's how
Yep.
I thought about it. I didn't know. At first, it was very hard for me to come up with this person. I don't know. Maybe that's why,
Yeah,
because I forced it. Mm.
I know. I think I thought the same way of like, no, I don't want to give up my camel.
I
So if I
know.
have to, it's my sister's on that because I trust the way she'll ride it.
See,
So I think we just
this is
twisted it ourselves, in our
yeah.
own interpretation.
But I like that it was hard at first. I
Yeah.
like that. I think both of us
Yeah.
did not have an answer for this one, and then we were
Hmm.
thinking harder for that one. I think that's lovely.
I mean, you've got
Yeah,
to
if I
approach all
want.
of these of like, what does it really mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's your own interpretation. And so I think we both
Mm-hmm.
approached it of, we loved our camel so much, who's going to take care of it after us?
Kelly would be perfect for Frank. Kelly would, when I am not there, I think I wouldn't trust. That's the thing. Like, I love the camel. I wouldn't want it to be just anyone. So I want it to be
Right.
somebody who would love animals and who, either you or Kelly, like, who would? Who,
Hmm.
my dog is crying. He's like, don't leave me with anyone, mama.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was
That was
interesting.
interesting.
I think, there could have been like trigger moments of how would you deal with, with your camel through that desert, and how would you deal
Mhm.
with, problems and strife. And we
For
both
me, it was
were
leaving.
immediate supportive, like we
Oh,
both got off the camel, took the burden. That was how we would deal with that trigger.
I think that's very telling of my own relationship. I don't know if I should be saying this out loud on the internet, but I think it's very, um, in my relationship, I feel like I'm being carried a lot, which is not something I would say, um, for any of the relationships. And I don't say it proudly either. I just think that he's so much, again, understand how strong he must be because I am usually the camel for so many people in my life. And so for him to be that kind of a person who's just so supportive, like that's how I'm like that's the relationship, right? Like that's
Yeah.
so I'm thinking about even though I met David after like at the Oasis. But I think it's very telling of my relationship right now. I have never been loved like this before. And sometimes that's triggering too. Sometimes that's like, why is it too good to be true? Or why does he have to do everything? But he's just that kind of a person. Like, this is what I mean by choosing um, people for who they are. Like, we can pretend to be somebody else to find a relationship, but it won't sustain itself, right? You have to love the person for who they are, and you have to be yourself to find the person who would want to be with a person like you. And that's why it's so important to be authentic in all of the things. But I feel like I'm being just cruised through the desert, and if push comes to shove where he needs me to just, I would 100% do that. Like there's that's just my approach to anything in life. I would never be like, maybe like I'm not a militant leader. I've never been. I'm very much like, let's do this. We can do anything. That kind of a
Yeah.
person.
I think it's funny being in my relationship for 25 years. I have seen us both carry the burden. And right now we're
Mm,
in a literal shift where he is taking on a ton. And this is specifically financially, career work, and he's doing that for me. And with no questions asked, he's very supportive and helpful, but I can see him working his ass off. But I also think thinking emotionally, like as you get into, a further along in a relationship, maybe it's when you become a parent, we talk about it more. And I've even seen some really great TikToks of like parents have that conversation of like, I'm at 10% today, you know,
mm,
can you take the 90? It's just like that sort of code word, like I can't be the camel today. I need help, and I think that's super important to like get that feeling. Like we don't even have to say it to each other. I can tell, like
mm.
bad morning. Okay, I got this. And so that camel really means a lot to me because it does constantly go back and forth. Like you will find that time where you're going to be the camel
Yeah,
bearing the weight.
I really hope so because I am very much that camel in life for
Yeah,
my parents, for my sibling, for like so many people. Like it's just like the dynamic I've had. So it's strange for me to for
me
him to
too.
be the camp. Yeah.
Me too.
And
Yeah.
so it's funny
I
because
get
I
it.
did
And we want
ask
to get
him.
off, right? We
Yes.
want to get off. We're like,
Yeah,
wait,
I
too much.
if not you not getting on top, like me not becoming the camel, that was really bad. um if I cannot be the camel for you, let's at least walk side by side. But I think I actually asked him, we just had this conversation, this is so funny, and I don't know, I'll probably cut this out when I post it, but I asked him, I was like, am I a good girlfriend to you because you're such a great boyfriend to me? And he was like, babe, what are you talking about? I'm like, am I doing everything? Because he's doing things. And I asked him that, and he was like, you just existing, you just being kind and sweet. And like, that's
Good
enough.
boy.
And like, that's never been enough. In any of my relationships, just me existing has never been enough. and I don't know what he means by me existing, but that's what he said. I'm sure like there are things, but that's just, I don't know. I'm processing that one. Maybe we'll touch back again. Like we should have one about relationships at some point. But that's an
But
interesting. I'm really moved.
I know, and this is so relevant in friendships too. You know, like
Mm.
you and I keep having this conversation.
We go
Um,
back and forth,
we
channeling
do.
for each other for
Yes.
sure. It
And you
feels
know what? I
very.
think a good takeaway is I've been trying to do this more is thanking the camel and acknowledging. And with friendships, it's almost even, no, with both any relationship, it's so important because people might not understand. They may not feel that they're being the camel. So to acknowledge and being like, you're helping me so much. I really appreciate this. It's going to encourage them to do it more, and it's going
I
to,
think it's
make them
also.
understand what their impact is, right?
I think it's easier in friendships as compared to relationships. I do not know why.
Yeah,
Maybe those are my triggers, and I need to go, talk to my therapist about this. But in relationships, it's harder
it
to
is.
be like I'm in a spot where like I have to because he keeps doing things, and he just keeps. I don't know. So I keep thanking him. But friendships are so easy for me. So easy for me to be like, thank
Yep.
you so much for listening.
All right, bring it right back to triggers right there. So in relationships, me thanking my husband right now is me admitting that I'm not independent. Trigger. Like it's okay. It's just and it's not that he's doing it. It's my
Mm-hmm.
personal endeavor to always be independent.
Yeah.
And I have to admit to myself that I can't be independent right now. So it's triggering to even think about actually
And
saying it out loud to him and saying, thank you.
yeah, and like there will never be a stretch of time where you're supposed to be either. Like supposed to
Right.
be independent either. I think this is a very good because I think we both picked up a trigger and we're solving it together right now. So I think this is very, very we did not plan on this. This is really fun.
No.
But I think this is where you give yourself grace. This is
Right.
where we have to be like, okay, we have lived a certain lifestyle in terms of love, in terms of relationships, and it's time to change. Our environment is showing us that we're not supposed to carry the burden. We are not supposed to be the camel forever. And as much as we want to get off the camel and be the camel for the other person, this may be time in life where we learn the other role of
Hmm.
being taken care of rather than the caretaker. So it is hard, especially for I know the upbringing we have had about just going for things and dreams and goals, just not even dreams, just the goals are so hefty and everything. So I
Yeah.
think that's good. This was a fruitful conversation. That was a very
Mm.
good test exercise that you pulled. I am
Right.
moved. I have so much to talk about. Do you see my cup?
Oh, nice cup. I love it.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think we did a good job of wrapping it up already,
Hmm.
but
I do.
do we have any pepping words for people who are experiencing triggers in their life right now?
Echoing the idea that we're always talking about, remember, think about you, bring it back to you, and process why you are feeling these emotions. And I think out of the last half of our conversation, if it's someone important to you that is triggering you, it's important to process with them, tell them why, walk through it with them in a, non-blaming way. Once you're over yourself, that trigger, process it with that other person.
Mm-hmm. Always ask, why am I feeling this way? Start there.
Mm-hmm.
Start there, no matter what situation you're in. If you are, let's say, you're having Sunday scaries for the Monday morning when you go to work, and that one coworker will be there in the first meeting the moment you start talking like that, they always do this or blah, blah, blah always happens. And that's when you know that you need to sit yourself down. Nobody's
Hmm.
always trying to be like, let me go fuck up Carly's day. Nobody's doing that. Nobody,
Nobody cares
everybody has a
enough.
life. Nobody cares so much that let me go fuck up their day, which will also fuck up my day because it's confrontation and shit. So I have to be cunty and petty about it to make your day miserable. So nobody is actively trying to ruin you or your life
Yes.
or your day. And that's a good point to sit down when you go, blah, blah, blah always happens. Blah, blah, blah is always the way. It's good to have boundaries. I think when we talk about triggers, boundaries go hand in hand. Maybe we'll do the next one on boundaries.
That's a
But
great one. Hmm.
I think boundaries, in my opinion, I am no expert, but boundaries are temporary. They have to be temporary because the more boundaries you have, you're keeping yourself locked. And at some point, the boundaries will be so many that you have nowhere to go. So boundaries are good
Nowhere to
for,
grow. Right.
oh my
Hmm.
God, girl, always brilliant woman. But yeah, I think boundaries are supposed to be temporary. You have to be triggered. And if you're always triggered within a family dynamic, set up a boundary. Draw boundaries and go, if you talk like that, I'm not going to come around anymore, Dad. And then that's set up. While that's set up, you go thinking as to, hey, what is happening? What am I thinking? What am I
Right.
believing about myself that is fucking me over so badly? And that's where you start. Oh, is it because my dad thinks, I'm going to give a personal example. My dad says, oh, you have to really work so hard and you cannot be a writer, you have to be a doctor, or anything like he has decided that is true and factual, but it is not. You can see it. So then it shouldn't trigger you anymore. It
Hmm.
like the thing with trigger is that it fizzles out. The more you look at it, it fizzles out. It's like that soda, like that you just pop and it's super crispy, leave it out for a minute, it's
Yep.
gone. It's over.
Yeah.
So have that approach. Have that approach
They
in,
have the ability to go flat, right? And if
yeah,
you
and
let it and you process it.
only if you
Yeah.
open it.
Open it.
Only if you air it out. So think about it.
Yes.
It's soda, I think, is a great analogy. So
It needs the
open it.
oxygen, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Sit with it, look at it, and then laugh at it. Oh my God, the best thing you could do is laugh because you know how they say like someday we'll laugh about it? They say it
Yep.
for a reason. At some point, it diminishes. The importance of the thing diminishes to a point you're like, that's what I was worried about? That's what I cared about? Start the work. You won't get there if you don't just like let it out. So triggers are a good thing. I will say this to everybody at any time. Triggers are a great kind of invitation for you to go deeper within yourself. And the more of that you do, the more of like holding your own hand that you do, um, the less things you hate, which means there are more things for you to love. So like think
Mm.
about that. The more things you love, the more things you hate keep you closed off to so much of the world, right? That's another thing we should talk about. But
And I think instead of reacting, you pause and you process.
mm, never react. Never react. If they're trying to get you riled up, power is in no reaction. If they're not trying to get you riled up, you're probably doing the same thing by not
Hmm.
reacting. Reacting is never the thing. You can respond at some point like, hey, you remember when you said
Mm.
that? It made me feel this way. Did you really mean that when you said that? That is responding and it won't come in the moment. If
Right.
you ask it in the
That's
moment,
important.
it will come out something like, what did you mean by that? And that's just, recipe for disaster. So don't react outwardly. Respond, but do it after when you have reacted inwardly.
Hmm.
Everything has to happen within first before having, it cannot be like, all right, I think this was good. I feel
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
rejuvenated.
Yeah. It went everywhere, but I think it was relevant.
I think we gave specifics, and I really hope that people can find um, similarities, if not like actual thing relatable, but similar instances. That's what I would say. All right, this was
Awesome.
fun.
Yeah.
All right, I love you. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Love you too.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.